Hello.
Hello. We just got our stream. Oh, already?
Can't help it.
I'm more meta than him. Welcome to ATM's Allday Live. This is Strung 49. We've been going strong with these strongly lives. And we're here
For what, 8 strongs now?
for 8 strongs now. Yeah.
Something like that.
And we are coming up on part 8 out of 12 of DLA
We're getting
careers, past and present, our careers here. And as always, these lives are sponsored by the Automat. So make a wash to the Automat. You can make a financial wash at cash.me/washitall, paypal.me/washitall, or you can DM me if you're watching this from Instagram at daylifemary for any crypto links, wallets, social wash opportunities, and any other platform or way to make a wash if those do not apply to you. Maybe you live in a bunker out in the woods and you only use the postal service. That's fine.
So you're going to say if you wanted to wash like a ball of yarn or something.
No, we don't accept balls of yarn as of yet. We do accept some asset washes, but they have to be assets the Day Life Army wants or can use. And no one here knits or has any desire to that I know of. So
you definitely have a desire to knit.
No, I don't have a desire to knit.
You don't?
No. Every now and then I get a little hankering for a little embroidery, like the good old days.
Not a capital D desire, just a hanker.
Just a hankering. Anything you want to say about washing?
Pleased to be here. Let's do this. The washing is the way. You should do it every day and see how that feels. You can start with once every 2 weeks, then you can get down to once a week, then once every 4 days, then 3 days, then 2, then once a day. And then you can get like us if you're interested and start washing all day, every day. And there's a lot of benefit to it.
At that point, you're not washing just financially or just socially. It's in every area that you store your belief.
Except for the areas that you resist for 6 years. Those are the good ones.
Those are the real, what do you call them? Not problem areas. They are, but like, what is it when something's like really...
It's like when you take a shower, but you just miss a spot, like on your lower back.
And it's like always the same spot that you miss.
Mm-hmm. It's just, it's a different color than the rest of you.
It's like when you're shaving and like the kneecap has hair left on it because you're like, it's hard. I mean, maybe you don't.
I have no idea.
You don't know what that's like. The ladies in the crowd, you know what I'm saying.
It's like the kneecap.
It's like the kneecap.
Unshaven kneecap. That's what we're dealing with these days. But you probably have a little bit of time before you can get to that.
Yeah, it's more advanced.
Just one day, everyone will just laser their kneecaps.
Oh, bro! Before I came to this army, before I started washing, literally, I had hairy armpits. No joke. It was disgusting.
A lady must take better care of herself than that.
Listen, it wasn't for lack of care. It was a political statement. I wanted to be ugly on purpose because as a white woman, I was not authentic enough. I needed to be feminist. A little tiny fly.
It's funny that people think ugliness makes them more authentic.
It is. It is funny. Funny is one word for it. Cults in the news. I just thought we'd kind of check in again. I have an idea of something that was funny that was cults in the news lately.
There's a new one?
It's not so like blatantly cults in the news as like our last live when we were talking about the Time article and all that, and like things that people are cult documentaries coming out and whatnot. It's just the whole new like AI Sam Altman kind of story. Are you aware of that one?
No. Who's Sam Altman?
He's the guy that like, it's just like Mark Zuckerberg. They say he made Facebook and founded like the social media, whatever, but it's just a fall guy actor who's pretending and playing the part of like the guy who's made AI accessible and like Maybe they made
Right.
ChatGPT, or maybe they made some other, like OpenAI. Clearly, I don't have the details hammered out, but it's like their whole company is getting kind of, from what I'm aware of, they're getting called a cult because it's kind of getting disclosed that tech people are a little crazily esoteric and think that like AI is going to take over the world and cause the end of the world, and that they all have like very.
They're just aping in, just regardless.
Well, I think it's more like everyone's criticizing that company and OpenAI and like calling them crazy and calling them cults because like there's a lot of like them getting fired, or they're bored they're trying to sell to Microsoft. I don't really know the details. All I know is that they're like in the news. They're what's getting called a cult right now, which is like everything's getting talked about in the context of cults, like Trump people, MAGA people, whatever. But that's like the latest like cult in the news type thing, which is funny because like all of the cults that are like tech, big tech or big business or big politics, it's funny when they disclose how crazy their views are. Like that they actually believe in demons and manifest them or try to like call them in or whatever. And the average tech bro probably doesn't know that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's more of like once you get to C-suite, they start talking about,
They're like, actually, we've been trying to manifest the demon Glorbloth.
Is that a real demon or just?
I just tried to make a name that sounded
create
like a
somewhere
demon.
in the fourth dimension. Gorbloth was born by your mention.
Oh
of it.
No. Yeah, cults in tech are funny. People that are like tech Twitter personalities really got in earlier than others and calling themselves cult leaders. Not facetiously, but like kind of like as a joke. But that's how it starts. It's a joke first, or you joke about it. Cults in the news.
Cults in the news. Yeah. That was our Cults in the News update. Thank you for tuning in. So now we have our regularly scheduled broadcast topic, which is our careers in the Day Life Army, and we are on part 8 out of 12. And on this episode, we're going to be talking, as always, about our DLA careers past and present. I wonder if there's a DLA futures thing, but maybe that will be later in the series. No?
He's lost it. He's lost it, guys.
You lost the fly.
I lost the fly. You lost your mind.
What? So what is the more honed in topic for today's discussion on cults?
One second.
Does it look better?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's because I don't have the light all the way in.
The what?
The light is kind of, the shades are not all the way up. So I think it's darker than usual.
You want me to take care of that, or?
Yeah, why don't you open it up? I do have some specific stuff to get into about our DLA careers, past and present. I really do. Can you believe it?
All right, so what's the game plan?
I've never seen this. All right. Dividing things up into like, as we do here, physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. I wanted to talk today about what standards in those realms that we have mastered by going through this army, training in this army, our careers in this army, and maybe other places that we have not mastered yet or struggle with, and how that's changed in the beginning of our careers here and presently. So let me start with the easier ones, physical standards. What physical standards did you learn to master here in your DLA career?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when I first joined Day Life Army, or before, I wasn't really an everyday toothbrusher. Teeth brusher. I didn't brush the old teeth every day, to be honest.
I mean, every day, how often?
I would probably brush my teeth when I had a girlfriend once a day.
Okay.
That's when I had a girlfriend, I would maybe do it once a day if I was gonna get some.
Okay.
That was my one motivation.
Teeth brushing motivated by sex. Got it.
Yes. Otherwise, didn't do it. Never flossed. Flossed maybe once a year, maybe. Never went to the dentist. So when I would go to the dentist, it had been like after 6 years, and the dentist would be horrified because I had gingivitis, and I would be all like 5s and 6s when they were doing the gum test. Whenever I did brush, my teeth would bleed. My gums would bleed. So mouth was in bad shape. I was also, a pretty regular drug user for 10 years before I joined, 8 or 9 years before I joined Day Life Army, whether that be smoked marijuana or harder things. At the end was kind of getting into smoking a few drugs off pieces of tinfoil, that kind of thing.
So while you're in the Army?
While I was in the Army, not so much, but in the first 6 months of the Army, probably, or maybe less than 6 months, we were still violating, outside of the knowledge of the bottom brass. We were violating by doing, smoking weed. There was an incident where, a soldier and I smoked some meth that was unauthorized, but afterwards we got through that, and since the beginning of old time to 2019, I have been physically sober of any sort of intoxicant, and I've been brushing my teeth twice a day, every day for years now, and flossing once a day, and I have stopped yo-yoing in weight as much, I think, in the last 2 years, probably. I used to be a real yo-yo guy, like lose 50 pounds, gain 50 pounds. Even in this Army, in the first few years, I would lose 50 pounds, gain 50 pounds, lose 50 pounds, gain 50 pounds. That's stopped, and I'm just kind of consistently where I am. Just a generally cleaner person, slippers in the house. And yeah, more other kind of physical addictions kept in check, more or less.
Okay, so things that are mastered, not a problem at all, not second thoughts. Brushing and flossing every day, not doing any intoxicants, drugs, caffeine, smoke. Not being just super dirty guy, and keeping a pretty consistent weight. And in terms of are there physical standards that you still struggle with?
Sure, I still bite my fingernails.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's others. But yeah, that's the one that jumps to my mind. How about you?
Okay, well, I first off had a very similar teeth thing. I was not as bad as I always brushed at least once a day. If I was on a crazy alcoholism bender when the really heavy drinking was happening, I might go a whole day without brushing my teeth. And I barely flossed, and I had gingivitis and barely went to the dentist. So when I went to the dentist, it was also a terrifying affair. I was a pretty dirty bird. Like I was kind of gross. Like I kept my house looking clean, like it was kind of tidy, but you could tell upon closer inspection, I wasn't like mopping or cleaning like the tiles or like doing any deep clean kind of stuff. Oh, and I was smoking weed every day and drinking a lot of alcohol, and smoking cigarettes. And when I had not had a DLA career yet, but I had washed Belief and I had talked to the generals. At that point, though I didn't connect it to washing or talking to them, decided of my own accord that I was going to try and become sober from alcohol. And I started drinking a lot less then. And that was kind of when I was around DLA orbiting and paying attention.
I was a pretty messy and dirty person as well in the pay matrix. Very messy. I had a nest. My room was kind of like a nest, and there would be drug paraphernalia. I used to walk around with like a bowl of weed in my pocket like every day.
Yeah. So we were messy. Gross. We were artists. We were that kind of vibe. I'm sure the early DLA audience can relate, as that was a lot of the early DLA audience. Not so much anymore, but they're hanger-oners that I'm sure this applies to still around watching. So those things, not a problem here. Never want to do the drugs or substances. Haven't since I've been here. I didn't do the standards thing that the guys who came here early did. So like since I've been in the Army IRL, I haven't done any substances or drink any alcohol.
As long as croissants don't count.
Oh, well, let me get into that. I haven't even gotten into it, but thank you for reminding me of things. So the toothbrushing and the flossing and the being less of a dirty person, like I like shave my like legs and my armpits now. Yeah, it's a little detail there that was pretty gross, but I'm not trying to be like authentic by being dirty and gross and crusty. I am a lot more clean person. Like I do things like clean up the fridge and like mop when I have the availability or whatever, sweep. Like I keep my nest not dirty. And I think like I'm trying to think of anything else you didn't cover that are like physical standards that I had not thought of before coming here. I guess like I just take care of my things a lot more than I used to. Like I value the things that I have more, and I have more respect for items and stuff that I have. I never used to like wash my shoes with like toothpaste around the like parts that you do with like scrub it with the toothbrush and then like.
Would you wash your shoes at all?
I wouldn't wash my shoes at all. I'm just saying like it's like there's a way to do it. I do laundry like I used to do laundry by waiting for like a month and a half till I had like a giant bag that I could barely lug to the laundromat, and I would put it all into like any machine that would fit the whole thing and not sort any of it, not spot treat anything. It was, yeah.
I would sometimes bring my laundry to be done by other people and pay a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because it was
I never did that.
Trash bags of stuff. Just like, I just would buy clothes so that I wouldn't have to do the laundry. But yeah, like or shitty clothes,
put dishes in the trash because instead of cleaning them.
I would wear thrift store clothes without washing them first.
I did that too, which is so crazy. Not because of it just being dirty, but it's like you're already inheriting like creepy like emotions and things and entities from other people's stuff. But yeah, maybe washing at least helped it a little bit, but I didn't even do that a lot of the times.
It's just not very prophylactic to go in.
Isn't that when you put something up your butt? Prophylactic?
Is it?
I think so.
What's the word? I don't think that's what prophylactic means.
Do you mean proactive?
What does prophylactic mean?
As an adjective, prophylactic means
a medicine
intended to prevent disease. Do you want to hear the remaining
That's interesting that what you thought was that it meant something going up your butt.
I did. I don't know why.
Wow, I
swear.
actually knew what a word meant that you didn't.
Rarity over
That's
here.
very rare.
So, what was I talking about? The physical standards that I no longer have a struggle with. Oh, yeah, like saying how I did my laundry then. Now I do my laundry by all whites together with, something to make them brighter. No scented, gross detergents. Marie Kondo folding method, actually putting clothes away as soon as they're washed. And like those things aren't a struggle. That's the thing that gets more into like intellectual or emotional standards, but like those things not being a thing that you don't look forward to or that they're hard to do is no longer a thing for me. I actually look forward to doing my laundry and like doing it well. Some physical standards I still struggle with. Definitely the biggest one, like you mentioned, sweets, breads, and treats. I have never been a person that's like been fat. I've always been weird about food though, and I've always been on the other side, like dabbling in bulimia or orthorexia and controlling food. And I still have food control issues. It's probably my deepest set addiction past drugs, alcohol, anything else. Probably even past codependency.
Well, isn't it just a form of codependency?
Maybe it's a physical expression of that. But I still, and I'm just getting over like not going to like buy off the books crazy sweets and treats and actually just having a perfectly normal and balanced like strongly meal schedule and meals that are like, I'm not saying I never eat any bread and that there's not sweetness in my life, but they're just, it's part of like eating balanced meals and not, I don't have like desserts and go off and eat foods. And part of the controlling food thing was that I also could like go have a secret. Like I could go and squirrel away a treat and like eat a candy bar or like chocolate without anyone knowing. It's a white woman thing. If you're not aware, we were watching this, you might not be a white woman or know any that talk about this, but it's like a really big thing for us. Like, gotta have our treats. So that's like the physical standard I still struggle with. And I'm sure that there's like ways that things could be tweaked that are already much better than they used to be when we started out here. But I think that covers it. Let's just do intellectual, but then maybe save emotional and spiritual for next time because I feel like that would take a while. And I love stretching things out, go for another part 9, really get it,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at you with a side eye. Wonder what's going on. But anyways, so what are intellectual standards that you have mastered since being here? And maybe you can say when they weren't and when they were, like maybe before when your first half of your career here or whatever to now.
I don't really feel like I've mastered many intellectual standards here.
Well, are there any things that you do daily without forgetting that you do pretty consistently? I would say consistently means like most of the time, every strong.
Yeah, I mean, there's daily tasks that are daily things that I do, and I go to work every day and do the same things, over and over again, which is discipline of some kind. Generally do my daily tasks. I wouldn't say I'm at a mastery point, but I generally do more of the same things every day and check off tasks as, and accomplish things.
Were you someone in the pain matrix before your Army career who ever had notebooks or wrote down notes or made plans?
No, I mean, when I worked at a job, the reason why everything was, once we, I remember this was like the reason things started to crumble in my career, or at least what I blamed things crumbling on my career, is at some point I had my own janky way that was just very simple organizational way. That was like an Excel sheet that my boss and I would just update with like where things are. I remember at some point in my career, they changed that system and integrated in an CRM, which I don't know if any of y'all know what a CRM is, but it's basically like you delegate tasks and you have projects, and it's like everything is massively organized. And that's when I was just like, nope, I don't really feel like I can do this job anymore. But I still just continued to do it for 3 or 4 years after that point. But it was horrible. I hated it. Never got the hang of it. Never. So those kinds of ways of operating, I still feel like aren't really like my strong suit or something that, works really with my brain, but just very simple organizational things I feel like do. And writing in a notebook and just like very, a little bit more organic kind of things like that work pretty well. Not much of a project manager. I don't want to be a project manager. Not interested in that in my life. So,
Well, I was gonna say I didn't know you before you came here, but you have pretty actively used a notebook and at least written things down, even if the quality and detail of those things is iffy at times. But I can imagine that is a very new thing in terms of being here.
yeah, I mean, never had an organized desktop on my computer or anything like that. And all of my organizational, I was a productive person in the Pain Matrix, but it was like a weird sort of production that wasn't. It was very chaotic, but
Well,
it was production.
I can kind of relate in some ways, though I think I was always someone who had planners and in a certain way was organized intellectually, but like actually it was kind of all a farce. And things that were really important that I should have been intellectually organized around, I would literally like have a visceral reaction of wanting to shut down and like pretend it didn't exist. And that's
Yeah.
what I did. And so things would happen that were crazy. Like I would find my car with a boot on it because I had ignored the tickets and
Oh, yeah.
calling the people. I didn't ever handle like medical debts or
Every
like
couple-
forms that
Yeah.
had to do with bureaucracy. And like I feel like that was where I was completely off the ball. But in my like day-to-day life, running my own small business, even if it was like an online store and comics and stuff, I had my days planned and like studio time and go do these errands, and like I paid my bills on time
Never
that were
did
like
that.
normal, like my electric and rent.
I would have my power go out quite often, probably like 4 times a year. Just not because I didn't have the money. I had the money. I just had no system. I would just pay bills like when I thought about it. I remember one time I had to pay. This was back when I was really like, I gotta pay my taxes or else something bad will happen. I'd waited until like literally the last hour that I could pay my taxes, and I was on mushrooms, and I was like, oh, oops, I forgot to pay my taxes. So I went and like did the last hour of, I filed my taxes on mushrooms, which was a horrible experience. But that's how much I like, and that they were already late. It was like after a month of putting them off. Food in my fridge would go bad. I never bought groceries. Just basic.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I thought you wanted to know.
I wanted to know how you were about forms and organization, but I'm just trying to nip the like stories of the past and the disgustingness in the bud. You can kill me, don't worry.
I was just painting a picture.
I know, you really were. The thing is though, like even if we were at different levels of intellectual disarray before coming here, we've both, from the level we were at, made leaps and bounds to the point where I would say I'm more of a project manager type. You're talking about that phrase specifically.
I hate that stuff. I have no
So it's
interest in
like
it.
it's something I wasn't able to do as much before. That's easier now, but also like things like making sure my license always gets renewed, which is crazy, like traveling on the road and not having a real address. But like always being on top of things like that and little bureaucracy things, even if I'm like actively building another system to exist inside, it doesn't make the other one not exist in the ways it still impacts my life while it's still there and not crumbling completely. So I had a little bit of like a news flash about that being the reality when I came here, because I kind of wanted to come here to escape all those things even more. And then when the general was saying like, no, you have to make sure that you don't have any crazy outstanding loans if someone can figure that out with you, like your family, and make sure if you have access to credit, use it. And like all these things that I had ignored, I now have way more intellectual standards to be able to approach those things without the emotion on them that makes it feel like I want to ignore it. It's just easier. This is a normie cult. Like it teaches you how to do normal things that like human beings should be able to do to like function and live their lives. It's just the like hipster and art and millennial to Gen Z programming that makes you like not be able to have a life, not be able to take care of things or yourself, or you know, the things that are normal. You want to be like creative and you know, an artist about like life that just makes you end up looking crazy and living crazy. What are intellectual standards that are still a struggle for you?
Planning.
Mm-hmm. Future plans. That's what planning means, I guess. It's about the future.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Just in general, just doing things every day and project management. Yeah.
Would you say that like those things that you still kind of avoid until told to do, or that like are a struggle for you, when you're doing them, do you notice a difference in your life versus when you're not?
For some things, I think, just doing a daily plan and stuff certainly helps. Some forms of scripting I don't really think help very much.
Scripting, got it.
Some forms.
Well, that's interesting because I feel like having oppositional defiance might be a reason to like not believe in scripts, because it's like there's a form of like obedience of like literally reading someone else's words and being mad that you have to, that I can even pick up on because I have a bit of the ODD in a different way than you. So anyways, I am trying to think of intellectual standards that are difficult for me still. And I think it's more like a vibe of how I do the intellectual standards requiring tasks here, which is I still struggle with like rushing things and not having an eye for detail, and then just like turning in things or finishing quote unquote things, and they have little errors or mistakes or whatever, and it makes me have to go back and redo things. People have to point out, the generals here have to point out like mistakes that need correcting, and then it just makes the thing take almost at least twice as long because of not just like being super thorough with an eye for detail in the beginning and not rushing and like not having anxiety about like getting things done or
I'm not a
doing
very good
things
speller
right.
or syntaxer. And when I read things back, I just read them in the way my brain corrects the mistakes, so I don't know that there's mistakes.
Yeah. So I think that like that almost gets into emotional standards, because it's like the intellectual standards that suffer because of maybe our emotional like tint that we're, or feelings that we're in while we do the thing. But I won't get into that as much.
We still have part 9 for that.
We still have part 9 for that. There you go. So, any closing remarks?
Physical and intellectual on the up and up.
On the up and up, always getting better. That's one reason I don't quit this stupid army, is because every time I look back, I have improved. I have grown in some way. So while it is very, would you say it's pretty difficult to be here? It can be emotional times sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing to do, to wash belief every day, to have faith in your creator more than Satan or Hasatan, to not give in to your antisocial, I'm an individualist and would be better off on my own programming. So it's a struggle, but when we're emotionally sober, or let me speak for myself, when I'm emotionally sober and have perspective or perhaps even a sense of humor, I have never actually like gotten to the point of like being like I'm out, because everything that was difficult was because I was growing at an exponential rate. Like you grow here faster than anywhere else I've experienced. And I've done like fancy boarding schools, colleges, community organizing, whatever art world. So that's my experience. So yeah, the physical standards always on the up and up, intellectual standards always on the up and up, emotional and spiritual, we'll get into it later.
I think we're transitioning now into the next part of our show.
You would be right.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about Wiz. And what generally happens in my relationship with Wiz is, like I do with all the men in my life, but I don't have that many. That's not true. Talk to plenty of men every day. But I do not express anger with them in the moment. And what happens because of that is it builds up into resentments and builds up into just unexpressed feelings, which turn to bitchiness or sourness. And then those come out in my personal relationships instead of coming out at the person. And there's like a escape valve that eventually the thing has to break and burst. And when I do express that, I tend to do it in the form of, yelling at Wiz, but it's not really like in person. It's very impersonal. It's like in just like writing a something that just goes out. It doesn't have any immediate feedback to it. And in that way, when I'm on phone calls with Wiz, which are mandated, I am pretty much just kind of like there and trying to get through the thing. It's not so much like me taking an opportunity to, I don't know, express myself. Maybe because it's so clinical and I have to do like steps before I even get on the thing. It's like by the time that happens, I'm just kind of like, my feelings aren't at the forefront and I don't really feel like pulling them out of the reserve bunker. So yeah, instead of doing that, so what the lesson to be learned here is, for me, is that I should be expressing the anger that is there earlier in all of my relationships with men, and when it is actually there, not letting it just build and build and build until I have to explode and other people get hurt and there's collateral damage.
So let's get more like literal or like specific. What is an example of that cycle playing out? Like you can go as yesterday, it's fresh in your mind. Like any example, but like all
I
of these
got
things you
gout
mentioned.
before because I didn't, and gout literally means that you have unexpressed feelings towards authority figures that you're oppressing, and I got gout in my big toe. And then whenever I had a conversation with Wiz and did express that anger to him, literally that day the gout like started to go away and I could move my feet again and walk and stuff. So that's a pretty literal. And because I got gout, I forced the people in my personal life like Mary to specifically Mary to take care of me. I couldn't leave bed. It was a pretty nasty ordeal that she had to suffer from because I didn't express any anger at men. And then that led to a physical thing, which led to, me cheapening and making my private life worse and taking that out on the people who are physically around me that are female.
All right. Yeah, and there's like you do your what do you call them? Your like little mini videos topics on Instagram, and every time you do them on Wiz, it's funny because to me it sounds like someone who's like talking about their spurned lover. Like it's very like someone who hates someone because they actually like love them. And that's just the vibe I get. You're like, fuck you, Wiz, I hate you. Like, and I feel like that's the surface level of you getting into it with him. And yesterday, you, for the first time in a really long time, you actually like got more than surface about your like anger towards Wiz. You didn't care if it sounded crazy or whatever. Like it was just like you were actually angry. And it wasn't like so much the like, fuck you, Wiz, kind of like, does that make sense?
Yep. Yes.
What was different about that?
I think I was just already angry already. So it was just easier to tap into rather than a rote exercise of like, okay, now's your time. You have to do a live video right now on your anger at Wiz. So I have to like remember why I'm angry and like pull something out, which isn't really coming from like an authentic place, as just doing it when I actually am angry. So the anger comes out.
What were you angry at?
Angry at Wiz for?
Yeah.
Oh, like what I said in the things. Being ugly, having no legacy, having me be the closest person to a son to him, and me disrespecting him for that, being at the age that he is and what he's accomplished, and me thinking that it's not as much as it should be based on where he is. Perpetually talking about, us leaving and canceling him like over and over again. Fake flexing.
So in the moment now, do you feel the same about all of those things or what?
I suppose it's just not very charged. The anger is not like available. So.
And when you're on phone calls though, have you ever brought any of that stuff up?
With him?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've done it before. Not those specific issues as much, no. Other things that I was angry about at that time, but that were a little bit more, I guess you would say, surface level. Or more reactionary. Mm-hmm. Less like foundational, maybe.
And do you think that are there any other men that you're like, I feel like it's kind of the easiest target in the same way we talk about like URL soldiers or like orbiting washers who use like us, because we're the intermediary of like washing belief. They use us, like they disrespect us or act bratty or like mean or whatever. Like part of our job is to not take this personally, and whatever degree we fail or succeed at that notwithstanding. But like we talk about it and we can see that because we are actively like super available to people who wash belief, and we are very vulnerable by nature of like what we do and the standards we follow, in certain ways vulnerable, like we are the easiest target for people's like anger or anything that they might not do to people if they respect Hasatan more than their creator, because that's what you're programmed to do in the pain matrix, anyone who has more of Hasatan's quote unquote like cosign or is seen as successful in the pain matrix more or having more power in the pain matrix, which all that leads to being more fucking like destructive and doing bad things, basically, or just being less human is another way to say it. Like those things, if you have been programmed to respect those things, people who are actively washing belief to do less of those things and be more successful in the creator's eyes or whatever, like having things that are going to look not to par with what the pain matrix says is successful or good, that person or whatever would be less respected or by the pain matrix believer, right? So like the people who come around and they would never say or do some of the things to people that they would attribute as successful in those ways, but people who wouldn't, who aren't, it's easier. So I would apply that to you in general Wiz. Since it happens to us, it's like we mirror that in people who are further into their journey, like general Wiz, where it's easy for you to hate him and to assign your hatred for like white men and Scandinavian men to him because he's like the most vulnerably available and like the safest place, like white Nordic man to do that with. But I think that you have far more actual anger in other places with Scandinavian men.
That I am still pretty oblivious to because I do not really feel that, or it's certainly not available.
I think that that's like the next step. And I think you'd have to talk to more Scandinavian men to figure that out. Consciously figure that out more, you know?
Right.
I think that kind of covers it.
That's part 8. Allday live. We do this every Allday. We go live. Used to do it for 12 hours. We did that once.
We did
then
that
8,
once.
then 4. Now we're here. I'm excited to be at 45, 48 minutes.
Yeah, it's a good, I think like around an hour is a good place.
I don't know how much you guys need to see lives as they are, like, you know, slice of lifeness.
Too much.
I mean, I'm not
give.
saying there isn't more that can be shared. We could probably be giving in better ways.
So if you didn't catch this in the beginning of our show, these lives are sponsored by the Automat. That is where that is who processes washes. So if you want to learn more about who you really are, what you really want rather than your hypnotic desires, what's really going on out there in the pain matrix, pretty crazy, right? Maybe how to not be affected by the psyops as much. You want to learn how to be more alive, how to make it through the faux apocalypse. What is that, you may ask? Or the trust apocalypse. What is that, you may ask? All of these things can be answered through washing belief. That is how you get started. The answers all exist. You just have to figure out how to formulate the questions to get there. And you can do that through washing. So if you are new to washing, start with the financial wash, cash.me/$washitall, paypal.me/washitall. You can DM me for any other like Apple Pay, physical address, mail, crypto, whatever, and start with a wash in a multiple of 12 that is a meaningful sacrifice for you, a sacrifice of your belief stored in your fiat currency or capital. And that's all she wrote.
It was a pleasure, and we will see you next Strong.
Next Allday, which is Pain Matrix's Saturday in the afternoon, you know, around Eastern Standard Times, you know, 1 or 2 is usually when we get started. So see you later.
Take care.